Hello and welcome back to Through the Cubby Hole with me, Lauren, and it's just me today. And I've got a really helpful, quick, to the point episode today. So I'm going to be sharing 3 tips to create a room that you love and won't regret. So I think this is really important actually because I've done it in the past and I know there's other people that I've spoken to on the podcast before who have done the same. Created a room and not loved it, stepped back and thought I could have done it better, or this isn't how I imagined that it would be. And I've just got 3 tips that really, really help to make sure that you do create a room and a space that you love. So, going in with number 1, now I've said this before and I'll say it again and I'll keep saying it. Create a vision board or a mood board of your room. So, I personally use Canva. And you can like remove the background of images. So, say you go onto a website and you like a vase, you can save the picture, put it onto Canva, remove the background so it's just the vase, and then you can place all your items together and it just gives you a really good idea of whether it's all going to work together. So I use Canva, obviously. You can obviously use Pinterest, which is more sort of just like the whole image to create like your own board for certain rooms. I prefer my way just because I think it really puts it all together nicely. Whereas with a Pinterest board, you are sort of scrolling through and it's lots of ideas. I love Pinterest for ideas, but I just think it can be a bit overwhelming and it's hard to really like pin down, excuse the pun, but pin down the actual items that you want to use. So I find that Canva works really, really well. And there is also a setting now on iPhone where you can obviously remove certain parts of an image from a picture. So you could also use that as well. And then you just copy and paste it to create yourself a little vision board, mood board. But I would really, really recommend it. I have done it for all of the rooms in our house and it really helps to create the image of what it might actually look like and to see things together. It helps with like eliminating things if you're not sure. It helps with looking at like your color scheme, your textures, whether it's fitting sort of like the feel you want for the room. You can remove things, you can build it up, you can change it, you can swap things out. It's honestly, I can't recommend it enough. I can't recommend it enough because you will know from that if things don't work. And yeah, it's just the best way to see if it's visually going to work by putting it in a vision board, in a mood board, and really seeing what it could look like all together before you put it in the room, before you start buying things. I just think create a vision board, thank me later. Tip number 2. So don't buy stuff quickly just to fill a room. Like, don't just go out and be like, I need to fill my living room. I'm decorating my living room. I need all my styling pieces. Let's just go out, go to one shop, go out for the day and just smash it out and buy everything all at once. I would say don't do that. I would say take your time. It's not a rush. It's not a rush. Get it right. Otherwise, you will just waste money. I've done it before where I just want to fill a space and get it done. I bought loads and loads of styling pieces for our house before we even moved in and started renovating. And then by the time it come round to renovating and actually putting the rooms together, I didn't like the items that I bought. So I'd really recommend not buying everything all at once just to fill a room as quickly as possible and get it done as quickly as possible. Build it up. At the end of the day, you're trying to create a room that you are going to love. And I don't know if it's just me, and I don't think it is, but it's like in terms of like fashion, you can buy something one week and then a few weeks later, you're never going to wear it again because you don't really like it. So then you pop it on Vinted or wherever. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just think with things in your house, especially, fashion is a little bit more quick. But with your home and things with your house, I just think these things that you're going to be keeping for a while. So make sure that you really love them and really think about each purchase. So it's all well and good if you can go out and you can buy a few items at once. That's great. And obviously I do that as well. But I'm not trying to fill everything. I'm not trying to think of every single part all at once. I might break it down. I might think of the sofa. So I do my throw and my cushions one day. Then I might think about another area, like the coffee table or the media unit. Like, separate it a little bit so that you're not just going, whoa, I want everything all at once. Because, as I said, you will just end up wasting money. You will end up doing it, sitting back a week later, you'll think, why on earth should I buy that? That doesn't really work. It's not really my vibe. I don't really like it anymore. So I would really recommend, taking your time, getting it right, think it through. Do you love it? If you just like something, if you're like, oh yeah, that's nice, then don't buy it. Buy it because you think, yes, I love this piece. I want it in my house. I want it in my room. And then, you can't go wrong. Number 3 is, do not follow trends that do not fit your personality. So, I love being on Instagram, scrolling through. I love interiors. I love all sorts of interiors, not just the interiors that I have in my own home. I say this a lot. I could have 10 different houses and probably decorate them in different ways for all my 10 different moods and stay at them different nights of the week. And I would absolutely love it. I'd have a pink house probably somewhere. I'd have a bit more of a modern house. I'd have a little bit more of a rustic house. Like, there's so many different trends that I really love. However, I can't put all of them trends into my house because it's not my personality, and I need to feel happy and content, and my house needs to bring me joy. So I just think, if you follow trends and you don't follow your own personality and what brings you joy, you're not going to end up with a space or a home that you love. And I think it's really, really important to bear that in mind when you put a room together. You won't love a room for very long if it isn't your personality. You might love the style, and when you're flipping through Instagram or Pinterest or TikTok or whatever, you might think, that's stunning, let me try that in my house because that's a trend that's in at the moment, I'm going to try that. And then you have it and you live with it, and then after a little while you think, this just isn't me, and you've just wasted all that time, all that money on things that don't bring you joy. So just make sure you're not following trends that aren't you. That's basically it. You can still love other styles of interiors, but what you have in your home and in your room should bring you happiness and bring you joy. And it doesn't matter what everyone else is doing. So make sure that you are doing you. So they are my 3 top tips for creating a home, creating a room that you absolutely love and you won't regret. I've been there. You don't want to do it where you start thinking, no, this is not right. And I feel like when you do decorate a house, it is a little bit of a cycle. You sort of start at one room and then you end up back at that room. It's like a constant wheel of making upgrades and changing things. I just think that is natural, especially when you're into interiors. But just make sure that when you are focusing on each room, you are focusing on what you love and that you won't regret later down the line. So, number 1, mood boards. Create a mood board, create a vision board. Highly recommend doing that. Number 2, don't buy things for the sake of filling a room. You will regret your purchases. You will be wasting money. Only buy things that you really, really love. Number 3, don't follow trends that do not show your personality. It's really, really important that your house is you and it's not because you've just followed a trend and what other people are doing. And that is it for this week's episode. It was a nice, short and sweet one, a little bit like me, maybe short, maybe not so sweet, I don't know. But thank you so much for listening. I hope that you found that helpful. I really, really do swear by these 3 things. Generally, when I put a room together, and I've learned the hard way, I've learned myself to do these things for a reason, to make sure that the finished result is the result that I wanted. I haven't wasted money on things that I then hate a few weeks later. I've learned. So please, these are my tips. This is my advice to you. take it as you want to. But yeah, I really generally believe in these tips. I'm going to be bringing you more episodes like this, a little bit shorter, a little bit more to the point. That's what I'd really like to do this year, try and help people as much as possible with like renovation, interiors. If you have any questions, obviously please drop me a message in the comments, and I will do my very best to help you. And yeah, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it helpful. If you decide to use any of my tips and advice, I'd absolutely love your feedback as well, because yeah, I really generally do think these work. So I'd love to know if you've used them and if you found that they helped and worked for you. If you are listening on Spotify, please, I'd really appreciate it. Please follow and rate the podcast. It really, really helps. I see every view, I see every rating, and yeah, it just means absolutely everything. So please do that if you are listening on Spotify. If you are watching on YouTube, because now I am on YouTube, don't get me wrong, it's not the best. It's literally just the visual to this episode. I am working on it. I will get better. But if you prefer to watch on YouTube, then I am on YouTube. I'll pop the link in the show notes for today's episode. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok at @the_cubbyhole, where I share my home interiors, home renovation, life, a little bit of fashion, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And yeah, I'd really appreciate a follow on there if you do not already. But yes, thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next week on Through the Cubbyhole.